Hi, on Friday night I went to see Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Going back to my habit of seeing the Marvel movies on their opening nights for the first time since Endgame. Um, it's based on one of the lesser known characters and follows a young Chinese American man who seemingly has something of a dead end life in San Francisco, parking cars with his best friend Katie for a local hotel. But it emerges that he is, in fact, the son of an immortal warlord who has used the Ten Rings to control parts of the world in secret, and now is being called back to take over the empire, but gets involved in a new conflict to wage war in a mystical land that his father believes is holding his long lost wife captive. It's an origin story, but it's of a very different type. It's seemingly retrofitting a much more classical um, martial arts coming of age story into being a superhero story. So we have a much greater emphasis on characterization and personal relationships than in other movies. The villain, the Shang-Chi's father, is much more of a believable, well drawn, well rounded character than in previous films. And the dynamic felt very different from previous Marvel movies. I found it really a breath of fresh air. The film also has much more of a diverse cast. It's overwhelmingly Far Eastern actors, mostly, I believe, Chinese American, although in a small supporting role you have, my mind's gone completely blank, Michelle Yeoh, who is Malaysian, I think. Um, so it mixes things a little, but there is really only one major white actor in the film, which is something that I won't spoil. But it feels very much like a variation on Black Panther of having this completely different ethnic cast and showing you something you hadn't necessarily seen before. World inspired by Chinese myth, and as a result, it feels very, very different, very engaging. Um, the performances are very fine. Simu Liu, who, as far as I'm aware, was largely unknown, although I could well be wrong, I thought was very engaging and likable in the lead role, very charismatic. Um, Having the sidekick also being the love interest and the comic relief all rolled into one character in Awkwafina's Katie, I thought worked extremely well, and she's very charming and likable and a nice counterpoint to the rest of the movie. And she too gets a heroic moment later in the movie. Um, but overall, I thought it was very entertaining, very enjoyable. Um, Something really quite different, and one of the better popcorn movies that I've seen in quite a while.